Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera. We're coming to you from indoors today because it's really cold outside today, and we have a lot of stuff that we have to get done. It's the middle of the week and a lot of work and other things to do, and we're preparing to go on a trip for a few days, so don't really have time to go outside and make a video. But while I am indoors, I'm going to try to make one or two, possibly three videos if I can get it done, so I have something for you guys to watch while we are away. The subject of this video is going to be a really interesting camera, kind of cool SLR 35mm camera made by Ricoh, and this is the Ricohflex TLS 401 camera, which was introduced by Ricoh in around 1970. For those of you who are new to my channel, I sell vintage Japanese cameras in my online store, japanvintagecamera.com. I have an Etsy store which is also called Japan Vintage Camera, so if you'd like to buy this Ricoh or another vintage Japanese or some other country's cameras, I sell different kinds, please visit one of my stores or both of my stores. I'll post links to my stores in the description below the video. So, the Ricohflex TLS 401 is a really unique camera, which I guess is kind of obvious when you just look at it. It's very different from the other cameras which were on the market back in 1970. And it was quite a modern camera, a very groundbreaking camera for its time, and it included a number of features which came on a lot of later SLR cameras. It's one of the first cameras to include certain features like a built-in spot metering system, but it had other things like this really cool prism on the top with dual viewfinders on it, and yeah, just really cool. And I haven't had a lot of experience with these cameras. I haven't really handled or shot with one before, and I kind of got this one just out of curiosity to see what it was like. And last night I went over it and through it, and I'm really impressed with this camera. I really like first the quality of the construction, which is very solid but not overly heavy. I like the arrangement of the controls. Everything is where it should be on an SLR camera, with the exception of the shutter speed dial here, which is kind of like in the same location as the old Olympus pin half-frame SLR camera. I love the way the meter works, and I really like the spot meter system, which is something which I really find useful when I'm out shooting. So let's go ahead and take a look at the features, controls, and functions of the TLS 401. And starting at the top here, we have the film rewind knob with a pop-out lever, and you can lift it like so to pop open the film door. Below that we have this dial here, which is just a reminder dial, which you set to remind you what kind of film you have loaded in the camera. We have settings for color, black and white, or empty, and also if you're using color, you can set it for either negative film or slide film to let you know. I'm not sure what the use of that is, but they have it. On the other side here, we have the shoe for mounting a flash gun. This one is of course a cold shoe, but we have a couple of sync sockets located here on the side. In front here we have one of the features which really makes this camera stand out from other ones, and it's a viewfinder which is attached to the top of the prism. And this is really cool because you can either focus the camera looking through the top, in the top waist level prism as they call it, or through the standard, I guess, eyepiece in the back. And you can select between the two with this dial on the right side. And we have EL and WL, which stands for eye level and waist level. You might wonder what the use of something like this is, but it's actually quite useful if you are into, say, macro photography, taking pictures of plants or insects or things like that, and you have the tripod or something set a little closer to the ground. And with this setup, you don't have to lay on the ground to look through the viewfinder to focus and compose. You can simply look through the top. On other cameras, like the, say, a Minolta X1 or Nikon F or Canon F1, they have accessory finders which allow you to do this, but you can do this with the Ricohflex camera without having to buy an accessory finder, which is a really cool and unique feature. Located over here, we have the shutter release button, which accepts a standard cable release. And of course, we have the film winding and shutter charging dial. As this is a camera made in 1970, it has a fully mechanical shutter, which means that you can operate the shutter with or without the battery. It will work and operate correctly at all speeds. No battery is required. a battery is required for the built-in light meter, and it's not necessary if you come across one of these cameras that the light meter doesn't work in, or you can't find a battery for it. You can still operate the camera if you're using a handheld light meter or a light meter app on your smartphone. Fortunately, on this camera, the light meter seems to work quite well, and it does require a battery. And this camera will originally use the MR9 Mercury battery, but you can use later PX625 batteries, or you can use an LR44 or SR44 battery with an adapter. Moving to the back of the camera, we have the main viewfinder here. It's dovetailed on either side, so you can slide on either an eye cup or an accessory diopter lens. On the back here we have a selector switch which goes between AV and SP, and this is what switches between the metering modes. In AV you get an average metering mode, which is somewhat center weighted, not too much average, and if you switch to the other side you have the spot meter mode. As you switch these back and forth, there's a little indicator inside the viewfinder on the lower left side which moves up or down to remind you which mode you are using. Right in the center of the viewfinder there's kind of a round circle with a Fresnel focusing aid and or microprism focusing aid, and this circle kind of represents what is covered in the spot meter feature. That's another reason why the viewfinder is a little bit on the large side, because of the system used to focus the spot meter. And something which works really well and which is really handy if you're trying to get an exposure in a tricky lighting situation. So say you have people on a sunny day standing under a shady tree, or something vice versa. You have people in the standing in the sun in front of a tree, but you want the people and the tree exposed. You can kind of use the spot meter to set your exposure from one setting to the other. It's a really interesting or a really handy feature on a camera, and something which I wish they used more today. I find I can get better exposures with the spot meter kind of system than I can with the more sophisticated metering systems which come in modern SLR cameras. Despite their, much greater level of sophistication and technology, they still don't seem to do as good a job as the human eye can do. And that's why light meters, even for digital photographers, are still quite popular here in Japan, especially the old Pentax digital spot meter, which has gotten to ungodly prices now. You get these light meters now. It wasn't long ago you could get them for around $100, and now they're between $400 and $800, because people appreciate the precise kind of metering information you can get out of a spot meter and how much of a difference it can make in the exposure of your images. So moving on to the bottom here, we have, I already mentioned the battery. We have a standard 1/4-inch tripod socket, and then we have the release button, which allows you to unlock the winding mechanism so you can rewind the film. On the front of the camera, we have a few important things here. First, we have the shutter speed dial, and as I might have mentioned before, this is the same arrangement which came on the old Olympus pin half-frame cameras, and we have a full range of shutter speeds from B in 1 second all the way up to 1/1000th of a second. And on the front here we have this dial which says ASA, and this is how you set your film speed. You simply pull up on the ring and you turn it until the little green indicator lines up with the film speed, or the film you have loaded in the camera. And below that we have a self-timer lever. This camera, as I said, has a built-in light meter, and there's a switch on this side where you can switch the light meter on and switch it off like so. So make sure the batteries last kind of a long time in here. If you accidentally leave the light meter on, you don't have to worry about the battery going dead right away. With the old Mercury batteries, unfortunately we can't get those. Well, fortunately, it depends on, I guess, your perspective if we can or can't get Mercury batteries anymore. But those batteries were really good because they lasted for years and years, and they were very consistent. The new alkaline batteries don't last as long, and they're not quite as consistent. But when they're, I guess, less than a year old, they're more than adequate for accurate use. This camera is fitted with a 50mm f1.7 lens, which was the standard lens for this camera. There were lenses of different focal lengths available, obviously. And it's kind of interesting that this is a M42 mount lens. And what's really interesting about that is that M42 mount lenses were made by a large number of manufacturers. You could get them made by Pentax, Yashica, Ricoh, and other makers, as well as some European makers. And this allows a lot of flexibility with this camera. You don't have to shoot just a Ricoh Ricoh lens designed for this camera. You can choose from a huge variety of M42 lenses. It's really cool, and it makes this camera much more flexible than even the famous Nikon F with its F mount and the huge variety of F lenses. There are more M42 lenses out there than there are Nikon F lenses. But anyway, that's it for my review about the Ricohflex TLS 401. I don't have this one listed yet. I plan to list it when we return from our, little holiday here. So if you want to buy this camera or see a little bit more about it, please visit one of my online stores. I plan to be making more videos over in the future. I'm trying to make a video at least every other day or sometimes every third day, depending on how busy I am. If you'd like to see these videos, please subscribe. If you like the video, please click the like button. That really helps us a lot. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.